right, welcome to the Knowledge Team Weekly Sync. We've got an agenda here. Let's kick off with the mini stand-up.
Okay, I think I can voice it because both Luke and Tom are not present. So backend is all merged for design to-dos. And as for Tom, I would say that all the front-end part is merged as well. He's saying one major merge request left, but it's already merged today. The only thing we have to do is to roll out a feature flag because front-end was delivered behind the feature flag. And I think we can safely say that it will be delivered within 13.4. And on to Marcus.
So for group wikis, I had one deliverable for this post-receive stuff. That one's merged. And at the moment, I'm working on feature specs, and I have 2 auto merge requests to fix the attachment uploading and also to add the license check. I realized at the moment it's just an EE feature, but it's just free. It's like available in all licenses. So I added the check to actually check for a starter license. And those 2 are in review, and once those are merged, I think we can enable it on staging and start testing there as well.
That's cool. Are we still on track for release next release, like for rolling out in 13.5?
I hope so. I mean, as soon as we have the feature specs ported, we can, I mean, that's basically testing pretty much all, most of the functionality in an automated fashion. So that should like uncover any major problems. And I guess like in a few weeks that should probably be done, and then we'll know more. But at the moment, I still have a good feeling, I hope.
Awesome. And I'm sure you've thought of this, but is it going to be instrumented as well, so we would know like how many people start viewing group wiki pages?
I have to check. I think some of the stuff we added for project wikis will just apply to group wikis as well. I think we discussed previously if we want to count them separately, so we can have like a better idea of how many people are actually using group wikis, not just matching them together.
That would be awesome. And it might, I know there's also those configuration, like with Confluence, like I posted in below, we are able to pull like 112 projects are using Confluence, where it's like a variable, like a count almost on the setting being on or something. And I know we don't have the setting, but maybe we could also just set a variable like that or something that's doing a count.
We have one database record when the repository is actually created, and I think that only happens once somebody uses it. So we could like use that as a guesstimate for the beginning.
Okay.
And I think for the tracking, we could like we have this metadata that we're sending.
Yeah.
So we could probably just add a field to say if it's a project wiki or a group wiki. So it's still counted in the same bucket, but then we can have like 2 graphs to split them.
Yeah, because then we could have a graph for like wiki page views across everything, right? And then split it. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So if we need an extra issue for that, let's make sure that that goes in for 13.5, and then so when we roll it out, we can see how many people start using it.
I'll create one for this. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not sure like what the plan is. Like, should we announce it in 13.5 as a like? I think it's more like a beta feature at this point. Like we still have a lot of stuff missing that was pushed into MVC2.
Yes.
So I guess we'll have to think about that, how we should communicate this.
I guess we're gonna kick that off in a couple weeks. But yeah, we've been very clear that we're doing MVC1 up through the management chain as well. So I will kick it off and say that it's like group level wikis MVC. And we'll say what you can do and what's still planned. And then what's still planned is probably going to be further out on the roadmap because we've got other things that we need to focus on. But if our customers keep being vocal like they have been around Confluence and other things, there might be enough upvotes and conversations to move that further up on the roadmap to bring it in. So we'll see what happens once we go live and everyone tries it.
Okay,
but yeah, that's a good point. We're not definitely not rolling out a complete parity with projects. So we got to make sure that that's clear. Okay, and yeah, we might be I'm trying to see if we could maybe even be the headline of the next blog post. It's not up to me, but I have asked the marketing team to consider it because it is the second most upvoted issue right now at GitLab, so that'll be pretty big when it goes out. Lots of people want it. All right. Is that it for mini stand-up? Are there any other? Oh, contribution. Yeah.
I implemented adding the Wiki and design contributions to the contributions calendar. Unfortunately, that was already quite an expensive query to calculate the contributions calendar, especially for heavy users like we see in GitLab. This expands that and makes it even more expensive. And I think we're now blocked on that performance issue. So I just need to kick that back and particularly get input from product about what we want to do about that. There's lots of information on the merge request there about what issues we've experienced, what the different avenues we've explored, and what some potential future paths are. But either way, it's going to require substantial extra time to make this very performant for the kind of things we want to do with it. So there are a few different things in there. It'd be good to get either give you a bit of time to read through that and to know how we want to proceed, whether it's something we want to spend more time on or not.
Okay. And what, I'm just looking through the MR here towards the bottom. So we got execution times, that's 378. And so are there weighted options in there? For me, just to understand, we could fix it this way and it will take this number of points, or we could fix it this way and it would take this number, so that I'm just sort of clear on what would, how much would go into the capacity. Oh, Alex, I think you're on mute. I just realized.
I am on mute, sorry.
There you are.
If you go at the bottom, you should see there's an alternative approaches section, and one of the right near the end, in a conversation with Andreas. And the cheapest one would be fetching this data. We could fetch data at the moment, fetching it a year at a time. If we do a quarter or a month at a time, the queries will definitely be a lot cheaper. That would require front-end changes or changing how much of a calendar we display at once. That's obviously going to have a visible impact to the user. Definitely requires UX input and product input. But overall, that will be the cheapest, the lowest hanging fruit. A few, maybe 3-4 points front end and back end. If we want to denormalize, the most robust solution is listed there under a new denormalizing table. That would be probably about 5 points on the back end, at least. Would require a new back end table. Would require new workers, new queues. It would require quite a long database migration, and so the events table, I think, is the largest table we have in the database. It would require a new table that is a view on that, so it's going to be also a large amount of storage. In Postgres, we need to consider whether we want to dedicate that much disk storage as well, because that could be expensive. And it would require at least a few different merge requests in order to get there.
Okay.
There's different requirements listed in there. There are a couple of different requirements listed in there. At the moment, we present slightly different data depending on what the current user has permission to see. If we relax those requirements, we can use less space and less time.
Okay. And just so I understand as well, the other teams that are already populating it, they have already done this. There's they've done their own work to kind of simplify it.
It's quite an old piece of code. It was obviously originally focused around pushes. Now has accumulated lots of other event data inside it. The events table is used throughout the organization, we populate with lots of different kinds of events.
Yeah.
And the calendar is just a view on the events table.
Sorry.
This is no worries.
Siri. That's Siri's getting involved. Sorry.
I don't think any one team owns the contributions calendar. So currently, there is a single query that reads a year of data for each user when you view your contributions calendar, and this is just reading out of what's populated in there.
Okay. And they're not, it's dynamic. They're doing queries like this. It's not like everybody is writing a line of text into like a static piece of data that gets referenced every time. It's like you truly do have to go query all the objects.
Well, it's a single SQL query, but yes, every time you view the events calendar, we issue one of these large queries for 100 days, 365 days of data for each.
That's crazy.
For the user. It's quite an expensive way of going about it. That's right.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be just like caching like data into something.
Postgres does a really good job of caching this. So although it's quite an expensive query, it's the runtimes are performant when you hit the hot cache. But once the data drops out of cache, it gets a lot slower. So Postgres gets a lot of that transparently for us. And for less active users, they have fewer events, and the query performs a lot faster.
Okay.
The outer edge of performance is somebody like Stan Hugh, who has literally had an event for every day last year, 365 days a year, and he averages about 70 events a day. He's right at the outer edge. And his query times are pushing what.
That's crazy. I'm wondering.
Just flagging this up. It's a big issue, and there's a lot of information in that merge request and on the issue. So
yeah, I'll read through it. And I know there's also been talk about making the user feed more robust, the descending list of what you last touched, which I believe is on your profile page. Could be wrong, but like from a UX perspective, when you land into GitLab, one thing GitLab lacks is that descending list.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, so that the underlying structures of that whole system may need to be reevaluated so that it could be quicker. Okay, I'll go through that. Thanks for the overview of it. And that makes sense. And I imagine because we have versioning, it's worse.
Too technical or just the versioning is not a big issue. But if there are any bits in there that you think could do with clarification, just let me know. I'm very happy to write up something on different levels if that's required. And I think this would also need some input from different areas of product as well. So this doesn't affect just us. It affects obviously merge requests and source code and planning and anywhere that a user writes a comment. So these are all things that will end up on the contributions calendar. So having input from other product teams about how they want the contributions calendar to work and whether they're prepared to support this level of work would be useful.
And I think that we'll want to unify on these objects, like what is a user feed, or what is the true single source of truth history of what someone's done in GitLab, and then what gets displayed up into the UI, and just be very clear on that. But I'd also definitely want their input, because I don't want to change something if there may each of those other teams might be having the same discussion we're having right now. But since we are trying to improve the speed and the performance of GitLab overall in this quarter, this might be something we look at where we could contribute a new architecture that would help speed things up for everybody on that page.
And it could have a quite significant impact. I'm not sure how frequently that we perform this query. It's not the landing page for any. So normally the landing page is your project list or your issues list or something. But it's quite an expensive query, and we could cut maybe 95% of the time off there, which could be quite significant.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, thanks for the overview on that. I'll catch up and read through the MR in more detail. Okay, getting into the PM agenda. I put one screenshot in yesterday. I pulled numbers on the Confluence integration, the Confluence GitLab plugin being turned on projects and instances. And so we had 2 variables that I have access to in Sisense. And it looks like there's 112 projects that have turned that on and 44 instances. What I don't know, and I'm gonna try to dig into it more, and maybe you all would know how to query this out of our data set, but I'm not able to split that number from self-hosted versus .com. I don't know if that's possible, but that would be another interesting way to look at this. So you could say most of our customers with .com are the ones using this versus self-hosted. Any thoughts off the tops of your head, if you know if that's possible? I could send the Sisense query through later as well.
So you only looked at the Sisense charts? Because
it's actually usage ping, yeah.
Okay, because we have this versions.gitlab.com or something where you can look at the usage ping data, but I'm not sure if you can like aggregate all non-GitLab.com data or something, I don't know.
Yeah, the version list, I don't know if you have all seen it. It's literally just a list of variables with an integer beside them. Or it would be like a 0.01 and then you do the math across all instances. But in Sisense, there's a chart that a colleague of mine had where you could pull any usage ping value into the chart. And so we were looking at that yesterday. I'll get the link. But I don't think that these usage ping variables have the nuance of like any metadata. I think they're just a number.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. It's possible that like in version.gitlab.com we have this data, but then in Sisense it's just aggregated. Probably.
Yeah. Okay. So that will be an interesting number to see how that ends up aligning. The feedback I have got so far on that integration, I have been asking you all in Slack, which has been really good, that they want to use self-hosted with it. So even though we're building only Confluence for .com and for Confluence Cloud, we're already having people say, oh, I want to use it with Confluence Server or on my self-managed instance. So right now we're going to keep investment just around .com, but like if we do keep hearing this again and again, we might shift and say, okay, we're going to explore having these 2 things talk together. I would say from some of the conversations I've been in, probably 90% though, we would just stick with .com, 90 or 95%. So I got to try to pull those numbers and just see how many of our customers are, what the split is between them.
I just remembered if somebody has production access, they can just query this from the database. So you can just ask somebody with production access. Then subtract that from the other number, then we have the self-hosted instances. Okay,
so we could pull that and then it would just sort of be like a snapshot in time. And we could pull both. Okay. Do you know anyone with production access? I don't have any contacts.
Like everybody that's been here, like all the like not senior maybe, but the staff engineers probably. But we can just ask somewhere in the channel, like, can someone with production access run this query for me?
Natalia.
I know. I know that Sean McGibbon does.
Okay. we'll see if we can do that. I could acquire with the data team too. I know they did want to expose our data somehow through SciSense, so that there is one type of SciSense data, I believe, is from the database tables. I know that they're looking at that as an avenue, so potentially it's there in some anonymized way that would help us see it. But I'll ask them about that and see if we could do a query from SciSense World as well. Okay. And then Sean, maybe that we could also try reaching out to him and see if he could just get us a one-liner, like just a number of self-hosted versus .com. All right, I think that's it for now. I'm also going to reply on the our KPI issue that we have for designs, being able to view them, update them. I'm a bit behind this week on my to-dos, but that's my focus today, and trying to make sure that we have the definition for that shored up. And then also I'll be reaching out to you all just so that we have it weighted and scoped and make sure we do have the telemetry there, so that by 13.6 at the latest, we've got that all implemented and the PI is running and we're getting the data into a chart. So this last bit of the month, and actually today we're doing a PI review as a product team. So we'll be looking at them and just making sure that those are ready to go and be scheduled and worked on. Are there any questions about that around that one telemetry issue? I'm gonna see if I can find it here in my.
I still have some old comments on those issues that
Okay.
I didn't get an answer to, but I don't think it's urgent. But just like all the follow-up work to actually create the dashboards in SciSense, and I think the data team has to verify them at some point, at least the PI ones. And
yeah, I was noticing that yeah, we have been pretty active on that, but the data team is overwhelmed doing a lot of these all at once. So yeah, I think I'll just read through this issue again and just see where we're at, and then I might go ahead and just draft the chart in SciSense and then see if we could get it pulling through.
oh yeah, I added one comment on the PI design view issue yesterday. I realized we have a unique users counter, but also a total events counter. And the one I implemented for Wikis was not the unique users one. So maybe we'll need to do that again, or like in a second way.
Yeah. So you, yeah, on Wiki, you've got all the things, all the activities not broken down to individual users. And then for design, we are getting the unique users, I guess, across it. Is that right?
I think so. Like, I'm really unsure about all this too. But the question I asked, like for GMAO, we only need unique user counts always, right? Like GMAO is the monthly. What does the G stand for? Like monthly active users, right?
Yeah.
The G is.
The G is group.
Oh, okay, so the knowledge group, basically.
Yes. So we've chosen designs to be the representative right now as our MVC from our group. The most correct Gmail for us would be deduped unique users that have touched Wiki or designs. So at some point, those two might come together. To get our MVC up, we're putting designs up because we think that's the number we can move the most and get the most growth to watch it move up in terms of adopting. But that's a good question. Yeah, like the whole organization is going to run off monthly active users, and then there's all the letters on the front, like G's group. They don't have FMAO, but yeah, we could say feature MAO would be like designs, Wiki, design system. Those would each get their own like feature or feature MAOs, but no one's really doing that at this point. And then actions is another one that we could look at, where we're looking at an individual action, like an update or a create or something like that, or a comment. So that's kind of the high level bubble around the whole thing. Does that help? Does that give a bit of clarity?
I mean, it's nice that we, in that case, we can ignore the wiki stats at the moment because you're only
For right
focusing
now.
on designs. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and if we added it in the future, it's going to be millions, and like designs are teensy tiny, right? So like we'd also have to figure out like how to make the charts show that so that it doesn't dwarf the design growth, and we understand what's coming from wiki, what's coming from design. So I think keeping them separate right now, even though designs is the main one, we're still going to look at wiki the same way. It's just not going to be our official, our group stat. All right, we're at time here, or over time. Thanks everyone. I'll message you in Slack or on the issues, and have a great day. Bye-bye.